We were always the weird ones. I was in long dresses, always stuck out like a sore thumb, and got asked constantly if I was in a cult. Well, I was so brainwashed, that I fully believed in what my dad said, that we were holy, we were the closest thing to God on earth, and all these lies. And so I would just be like, no, you're out of your mind. I asked her, should I get out? She was like, what? You're going through all that? Yeah, you have to get out. And the reason I wrote the book was to help other people that might not see, oh, wait, I'm in a toxic relationship. So I really wrote that book not to get revenge at anyone. I want to put that out there, but to really help other people that might be in a situation where they can't see clearly, because that was once me.
You're listening to the Real Business Connections Network. Real Business Connections Network. Powered by Balbert Marketing, LLC. Subscribe now and check us out at realbusinessconnections.com. Enjoy the show.
Welcome, everyone, once again to Learn, Speak, Teach on the Real Business Connections Network. I'm here with the lovely, incredible Julia McCoy. What's happening? How are you?
Hey, Ben, thank you so much. I'm excited. Great to be here with you.
I have been looking forward to this. I actually heard you on a good friend of mine, Justin Shank's podcast, and I was like, I want to learn more about this woman. And I did learn more about you, and I've just been looking forward to this conversation. I think you have a lot of value to offer the listener today.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, that is what we're all about, right? I love the way you host your show. So I think you're coming in prepared and ready. I'm excited.
And the only thing that's scripted and prepared is the bio, because I always want to set a stage and do justice here. So this is where I trip over my words half the time. Julia McCoy is an 8-time best-selling author, is hailed as the AI content queen, and serves as the president of Content at Scale. Recognized as a 2023 MarTech top content marketer, she is the powerhouse behind Content Hacker and successfully scaled her previous rating agency to $5 million in revenue, starting from nothing too, which is badass. A trailblazer in blending AI with content marketing without sacrificing authenticity. Julia has shared her insights at over 200 and more events worldwide. And fun fact, Julia, I know you'll love this. The way I write these bios is I'll take like your website profile, and then I'll take like the LinkedIn profile and the heading, and then I just kind of copy paste it all into ChatGPT. And I go, I host a podcast, turn this into a shortened bio for spoken word, and that's what we came up with. So how'd we do? Did I miss a lot?
Pretty good. You covered all the highlights. Good job.
So, what are some things that people don't know about you?
Oh, yes. Well, I think you know this, Ben, because you listened to my episode with Justin, but I grew up in a cult. So that's usually a shocker for most people, because apparently I don't look like a weird person that stepped out of a cult. I'm very thankful. And sometimes I still feel like it. But that actually happened. I grew up in that for 21 years.
A lot of people's hairs just stood up. They didn't expect that to come out. Is it true that like 99% of people don't look like some weird person that came out of cult? It's really just ordinary people that find themselves in extraordinary scenarios?
You got a great point. It's interesting because I've learned so many of my heroes, they all started in really crazy households. So I'm like, oh, okay, good. I'm not alone. Makes me feel better.
Yeah, it gives you life experiences and a wisdom that I don't think can be replaced.
Yes, that's very true.
So a little more context. I know the context, but a lot of the listeners might be new to you. You're in a cult? Why?
So, yeah, not by choice. This was something I was born into. So I was grew up in Pennsylvania, little town somewhere outside Pittsburgh, very offskirts, way out there. And I grew up literally secluded in a cult. Like we had curfews, we had dress codes, we couldn't wear certain colors, we couldn't pierce our ears, hair had to be a certain length. And there was unfortunately a lot of abuse in it, in how my father controlled his children. So it was all with the goal of, trying to make us more holy and all these lies. And it was really just total control. So I left that in the middle of the night when I was 21, packed up a car, bought the car through my writing income, which I think we're here to talk about how that happened, and got out of there. And it was, it was the hardest decision I ever made in my life. I don't think any risk will be ever harder than that risk. And that was the biggest payoff, because it's led me to the life I can have today. If I was still in that environment, no way I'd even be here talking to you, Ben. So take that risk, get out of your situation. You never know what can happen.
Amen. And most our talk will be on the transformation and what you've done and accomplished now, but you just glazed over 21 years. So you're born into a cult. What do you have any first memories of this being your life? Like, what did that look like as a young child?
Yeah, it was so much church and so much ritualistic practices. At 5 a.m. we were getting up, we were reading books that were written in the 1400s that were very, very hard to decipher. But it's weird when you grow up in that, it's all you really think it's normal. So 5 a.m., I'm a 7-year-old sitting there reading, and like you couldn't move, had to be silent, you were seen, not heard. And to ask that of a 7-year-old, I have a 7-year-old of my own now. I can't even imagine. So I'm like, wow, just to think that that was normal. But when you're on the inside, you don't see any other reality. So you're like, okay, this is normal life for me. So that was normal life for me for 20 years. And I really only questioned it in my early 20s, when I was like, okay, I'm still locked up in this, but wait a minute, I think I'm an adult now and I might have a choice here. So then I began to question it.
Why did you start to question it? So you're born into it. This isn't something you chose. So you didn't know any other way. So it's hard to question that. Like, were there hints of red flags that things just weren't right?
Yes. Yeah. I began to see, just noticing what other kids my age were going through. We were always the weird ones. I was in long dresses, always stuck out like a sore thumb, and got asked constantly if I was in a cult.
Really?
The answer was no.
How did you reply? Was it like shoulder shrug no? Were you confident you weren't? There's a little cognitive dissonance, I can imagine.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I was so brainwashed, that I fully believed in what my dad said, that we were holy, we were the closest thing to God on earth, and all these lies. And so I would just be like, no, you're out of your mind. This is definitely not a cult. Yeah, it's a cult. Just didn't know it yet. But yeah, I thoroughly believed. Yeah, I didn't question anything because of the tactics that were used. I mean, whenever you study cult leaders, right, they had a following that intense for a reason. They were using proven practices to control their followers. And so that's what my dad did. But what happened, and really why I got out at the age of 21 in the middle of the night, he went too far, and it backfired on him. He was trying to control us, my older sister and I got her out as well. He was trying to control us. This was the furthest he'd ever gone. He wrote us a letter, and we were sent to our bedrooms for the whole day. When I turned 21, my sister turned 23. So we were sent up there. We were actually locked in the room, told to stay there the whole day, and then delivered a letter. It was like the most extreme form of control he'd ever tried on us. So in this letter that we had to read alone in our room on our birthday, it was so sad. In this letter, he's like telling us we shouldn't have been born. And I was just reading that letter, and I went, what? And what happened was, instead of it doing the ultimate form of control, which he wanted, like just total blind obedience to him, instead of that, it really made me begin to think differently. Well, wait a minute. If he thinks I shouldn't have been born, then should I even be here? Does that mean I can leave? Does that mean I should leave? And my whole thought process began to change. So it was like a total blessing in disguise. It was something he really meant for harm. And to completely annihilate me. And it did the complete opposite. So, talk about turning something meant for evil into good.
He kind of flicked the switch for you in a
He
way.
did without knowing it.
Were Was this all internal? Like, were you writing about this? Did you have someone to talk to about it? Was it just like, did you have support? You said
Mhm.
you and your sister left together. Beyond you two, were there other people around that you could talk to? Did you write about, like, what did that look like?
Yeah. So that was definitely one of the forms of control. We were cut off. We couldn't communicate with anyone. My cell phone was monitored. There was a lot of eavesdropping, a lot of recording going on. So we were constantly watched and we couldn't have any conversations with anyone without their permission. So I literally had like no friend I could talk to that I knew, okay, I can talk to this friend without my dad listening. Like I was never sure about that. So we never talked to anyone. And that was definitely one way he got us to feel like we were completely alone. So it's a very interesting tactic to cut you off and then, oh, you kind of feel like you're on an island. So there was no one to talk to. So when I got that letter, it was me, myself, and I, but
Mm.
my brain like just started working and thinking differently. And then that's when I went and for the first time, I actually reached out to a friend and I called her late at night. I went into my closet. I shut my closet door because my dad was usually on the other side of our door eavesdropping. We didn't know when, we didn't know what time, we didn't know if it would be him or a recording device, never knew. So we had to be very careful. So it was the first time I ever talked to anyone. Went in my closet, buried my head in my clothes with my phone by my ear. And I was literally asking the one friend I had that I asked her, should I get out? She was like, what? You're going through all that? Yeah, you have to get out.
Yes. And we're about to transition because obviously you did. This isn't just a cold show. This isn't a cold show, but I'm not just I'm interested in the social psychology behind all this stuff. But we're gonna transition into content. But to my understanding, you wrote a memoir about all of this. So how can someone go deeper with that?
Yes, I did. And I'll tell you, Ben, it was really hard to even talk about any of this. It's really a testament of healing, I think, to be able to talk about this and not feel hurt or anger or any other, unhealthy feelings towards those people. Like I've totally forgiven them. And the reason I wrote the book was to help other people that might not see, oh, wait, I'm in a toxic relationship. Oh, wait, I'm in control. Oh, this
Mm.
church is not what it seems like it should be. So I really wrote that book, not to get revenge at anyone. I want to put that out there, but to really help other people that might be in a situation where they can't see clearly, because that was once me. I was completely blinded by my father, and now I see exactly who he was, the evil manipulator that he really was. And I'm so glad that is not my legacy today. But that memoir is called Woman Rising, and you can read it on Amazon. And Ben, I have to say, I have so many men that have read it, which I love. Like, it makes my day when a man's like, I read Woman Rising. I'm like, that's a good man.
I, I'm
So it's for
I'm
everyone.
I'm going to write it, and one of my mentors, and she doesn't know it yet, but she's coming on the podcast, is Sarah Edmondson. By chance, do you know who that is?
Sounds familiar.
I'll
Tell
make
me.
an introduction. We'll talk offline, but Sarah Edmondson co-hosts a podcast, A Little Bit Culty, with her husband Nippy
Oh.
Ames. They were in a cult called Nexium that started in Albany, New York. That, for anyone who doesn't know, it started with like self-help, like look at yourself in the mirror, like reflection, personal growth, building of community, and a lot of that stuff was good, and that's why people joined, and they were like, they got endorsed by Branson and Deepak Chopra, and we're doing all these big things. And then in the corner, the leader had a harem, a girls empowerment group, and this women's empowerment group was basically a harem of sex slaves for the leader.
Wow.
And where it all exploded was they were branding the women with his initials, and before you know it, front page of the New York Times is Sarah Edmondson showing off her near her pubic area brand, and they completely took this cult down. It's a big thing. We'll talk about it offline, but Sarah and Anthony, this sucks because it isn't out yet. This is going to come in maybe a month later, but they're going to come on the podcast. But she is such a huge mentor of mine in the fact that she joined a good thing. And she thought she was making a difference, and then she experienced trauma, and now she's doing whatever she can to ensure that other people can go through the same experience. So that's just me reflecting on the fact I love what you're doing with the memoir. I appreciate that you wrote it. I'm going to be a male reader of yours.
I love it. Well, you're amazing, Ben. And that woman sounds like a powerhouse. Kudos to her for getting out of that, seeing it, and then like the total healing experiment, I think, really experience is to talk about it and help other people. That's when you've like really reached full circle, because that's hard. It's hard to go there. But when you do and you help other people, there's no other powerful place to come from than your own experience. We have to use that for good. So that's amazing that she went through that and came out the other side.
Amen. And everybody stay tuned for those episodes. And one thing, Julia, we'll talk offline. When I speak to Sarah, I'm going to name drop your name and see if you guys can get connected. Her podcast is incredible. So you were in a cult, not by choice, and you're like, holy crap, is he asking me to leave? This is ridiculous. And you're like, I'm going to up and leave. That's a big decision. I don't even know if I like want to go get a massage or go to a concert later. Like I can't even make the smallest decisions half the time. What did it look like to make that decision? That's a huge leap of faith.
Yes. Well, I think something that happened, like when I look at the blessings, the good things that came out of being in so much pain, it was just daily, it's a lot of trauma, a lot of abuse in different ways. But the one thing that I kind of whittled really well was my ability to listen to gut instinct. And we have so much noise in this world, so much distraction, so many voices too, I think, that tell us, oh, go here, try this. And we tend to avoid our own gut instinct, which is one of the most powerful tools we have. So whenever I got this letter, who do I have to listen to? No one but me, myself, and I. And whenever my mind got awakened, well, hold on, wait, he says this. And my rational brain really kicked in over the emotional brain, which my father had successfully turned on for years. So when my logical brain gets kicked on by accident by my own father, then I'm like, okay, it's just a matter of time now, because I see what I should be doing. And that gut instinct was so, it was just like a instinct that had been refined so well because it was the only thing I had to listen to. So you tell me to do something, you give me an opportunity, I am one of the first to chase it. Everyone thinks I'm absolutely crazy. I get called that half the time. But that is something I definitely carried out of that environment. That was a amazing thing. I look at it, it's a way I can outshine my competitors even, because I have this ability honed in that environment to listen to my gut. So it was really just a matter of time when my logical brain kicked in till the action of leaving happened. I just started to make plans, like buy that car with cash through my writing income, which we can talk about that journey too. And it's just all happened. It's like when I think too, when life gives us an opportunity, like the universe really shows up for us. We just got to show up for ourselves. We got to say, okay, I'm going to take this chance. I'm going to open that door. I'm going to walk down that path. And if we do, even if we put one foot in that direction, sometimes that's all we need to do. And we will start to see doors open. And that's kind of what happened. Like it just started lining up. People were like, yes, you can, let me help you get out, Julia. We asked a friend who was an ally of my father. And I look back, I'm like, what were we thinking? That was like one of his best friends. And she was on our side. She was an unexpected ally. So I think the world just kind of opened up once I decided, okay, let me get out of here. Let me try to build my life.
Wow, the doors started to open. The world was opening up. People that you wouldn't expect were willing to help you.
Yes.
Wasn't all sunshine and rainbows, though, was it?
No, it was terrifying. Yeah, it was all I had known for 21 years was that house. So, my initial thought really was a bit of desperation. Well, you know what? I'm going to get out. And if I fail on the other side of this, if I just don't even find my way back to a normal life. Oh, well, at least I tried. And what I didn't know was that the opportunity once I got out would be like 100 times greater than I ever thought, because the control was gone. I could do whatever I wanted. And I had all these instincts refined from being in that environment that I could just listen to. And I think that's why, like, I've hit some of my big goals, like become a millionaire by 30. I hit that. Why? Because I left this environment and I had this ability that's very rare to be able to just listen to instinct. If you listen to instinct, I'm telling you, like, our subconscious is so powerful. The tools that we have, if we just go in that direction, it's incredible.
Looking at the whole timetable, that's brilliant what you just said. I mean, congrats to you. You're in your lower 20s and you're trapped in a cold, toxic environment that's your family.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
in 10 years, you're a millionaire. Not many
Yes.
people can tell that story. So you did that through writing?
Yes, I did. Which is now AI.
Which is
No,
now
I'm kidding.
which is still writing. We'll get into AI in a moment, but like why writing? Was that your getaway?
So writing was my passion, and I had been writing to, escape my reality, to do something I enjoyed, like, since the age of 7. It was just words came naturally. I loved stories, loved books. And that was literally like my escape. I built it through books. And so I knew, okay, if this is my passion, there's got to be a way I can monetize this. And something that I had early on was we actually had access to the internet. And I, so thankful for that, because I know not many people in cults actually have that. So I had access to that, and I saw from the minute, like, I heard the dial-up modem connect, I'm like, this is opportunity. So my brain was just on all alerts there. And when I was 19, I was researching one day. I was like, you know what? I have to figure out a way to make money for my passion. I just have to. Like, that was in my mind. And I think, there was some wiring there in my DNA of being an entrepreneur that was there from the beginning, because I saw my siblings. I had 3 total. They're so different from me. Like, people don't automatically think, I have the skill, let me go make money. If you have that intuition, you're probably an entrepreneur, just saying.
Mm-hmm.
So I had that, and I'm like, okay, let me Google how to make money writing. And back then, this was 2011. Upwork used to be Odesk. Whenever I did that search, I found Odesk. It was like one of the top results. I land on Odesk. I scroll down, and what do I see? 13,000 gigs available. And I was like, light bulb moment. That's opportunity. If there's this many jobs, then I can get paid to write. And so, like, that day, signed up, made a freelancer portfolio out of nothing, just wrote some content, and then got my first gig like within 24 hours. And it really just skyrocketed. I just stayed the path and really had a lot of tenacity, building that initial foundation block to build that writing career.
It's I'm gonna have you back. We'll do a whole, we could do a whole seminar on writing, but a lot of the listeners, they're running a business, they aren't writers per se. What's most fascinating to me is jumping on an Upwork or Fiverr, especially in the 2020s, and doing writing gigs in America. It's going to be hard to compete. So
Yeah.
that's a difficult thing to talk about. What was really most mesmerizing to me is you took that skill, but then you scaled it into a company. And that's really what took you from zero to total superstar hero. It wasn't just the writing skills. I can imagine it was the team you built. So, tell me, how did you start building that team so you wouldn't have to do all the work?
Yes. Yeah, that's a great point. So 3 months after I started on that journey, here's Odesk. There's a whole marketplace out here. Okay, let me try this out. 3 months after I started that, I had so much work. I had to literally make a decision. I either turn away clients or I decide, okay, I'll build a business. So what does Julia decide? Oh, let's build a business. Anything I have an instinct for, I just do.
The door opened.
Exactly. Door opened. So I'm like, okay. And I look into how do we do this? Create a business, got an initial website, built it all myself, learned some initial website coding skills. Wasn't that great, but we got it out. And then I just launched my little business and I started looking for writers that, my goal was to create the best content on the web. And it was funny when I look back how good that goal actually was. And I just wrote it down on a piece of paper. I'm like, this is going to be my company mission. I don't know how hard it's going to be, but this is what I'm going to try to do. Create the best content on the web. Well, that's a tall order if you think about it, especially today. But that particular one sentence vision really carried me through. Like, I will tell you, the next 10 years, just committing to that one thing, like that helped me hire the best writers. It helped me write a lot of these books that I've written because I didn't find training in existence on some of these things. So I'm like, okay, let me create it. Because if we're going to create the best content on the web, well, I got to create these other vehicles to make that happen. Mm-hmm. So it really inspired a ton of my career, was just creating, a giant goal. And I've heard it said, I love this statement, if you shoot for the moon, at least you land among the stars. But if you didn't shoot for the moon, you're not going to land anywhere. So, a little bit of a failure is still amazing whenever you're shooting for a goal that big. I think that's like where the world kind of stops us or inhibits us. We don't set big goals because they just seem too scary. So we don't even go after them. But if we set them, it's okay if we don't hit them, but at least we tried and we have no regrets.
I love that mindset. You set a really big goal and you don't hit it. Maybe you only get half of the way. My gosh, you're way farther along than if you didn't do nothing at all. So that's huge. So you're building this team, you're training, you're delegating. I know you talk a lot about this. Like, how do you know who to hire and or what is a good hire? And then let's talk about those terrible hires that end up making you pull your hair out. So let's start with terrible, because it's more sexy and fun to talk about the negatives sometimes. What does it look like when I hate this. I hope that none of your previous employees are listening, but you hire somebody and they interview well and it doesn't turn out the way it should have. How do you avoid that kind of bad hire? What does it look like? You tell me. You have a lot of experience.
Yes. Well, you're right. Unfortunately, sometimes the only lessons are through failure. So at the beginning, when I knew nothing about hiring, I was hiring so many of the wrong people. So I've definitely learned you can avoid that. I believe 99% of the time. And how you do it is you just are ruthless in your qualifications for that person. And I don't mean a degree. I don't mean like they have to be this superstar at XYZ. I mean, like, you really hold their feet to the fire and what it is they can actually do. You look for that skill set. So for me, writing really to, eliminate the people that didn't have the skill and find the people that really did. What we did was we actually removed the typical interview entirely. We turned it on its face. And instead of a call or, we set a Zoom meeting, instead of anything like that, we actually just asked them, hey, you know what? Don't worry about spending an hour of phone time. None of that. We're not going to ask you to do that. What we're going to ask you to do instead is take 20 minutes of your time and write something for this keyword or this topic. You get to keep the rights. We're not going to pay you for it, but you keep that content. It'll be yours still. But we just want to see what you can do. And so that really got us to some amazing people, because if people are willing to do that, then they're often willing to be innovative and to rise up whenever they are in the role. And if they're not willing to do that at all, like, do you even want them? They're probably not. There's no initiative. So we really qualified for a lot of important things, because, it's not just about the talent. You can have a super talented, qualified person with 3 degrees, but if that person doesn't actually have passion for continual innovation, continual learning, like, they're just not going to show up over time. And that's the people I wanted, because time and time again, I learned through failure that, you can build a business. It only goes so far if you don't have the right people. If you have the right people, that's when you can take it so far. And that right person often isn't who's in your head. It could be somebody from Kenya. It could be somebody from the US. It could be, So it's really all about the skill. Forget everything else. Look for that, and then look for enthusiasm. Look for somebody that's actually excited about what they do.
So you don't even look at the resume if you don't have to. You look at the skill,
No.
you look at the enthusiasm, you bring them on board. They're delivering, they're helping you help serve happy clients. How did you keep them with the company and keep them happy? Because that's important, because someone that
Yeah.
skilled, Julia, they could turn the corner and go to somebody else easily.
Oh, 100%. It all, comes down to your company culture at that point and how, this is going to sound whimsical, but it's true. How much of a family you make it feel like. Like it really does come down to that. You will have so much loyalty if you treat people right. Like it sounds so simple. It sounds, like I found it on a Pinterest meme, but it's the truth. People that found us that were amazing, that we kept for years, they had horror stories. And I'm just like, how do you have a horror story? You're an amazing person. You shouldn't have been treated this way, but they do. They were treated horrifically. They felt like they were under constant monitoring. They felt like they were babysat. They felt like somebody talked down to them. And so all these things that people go through in their jobs, if we create the opposite and we really create a home, people don't want to leave that home because they know that that's actually hard to find. It's hard to find an employer that actually cares about their people. And once you have that kind of loyalty, like that person's not going to leave, even if they're offered more pay somewhere. Yes, I'm not saying not to offer a lower rate and build a nice culture. You have to have both. Please pay your people well.
Mhm.
But in the end, that culture matters so critically. And the company I'm at now, Continent Scale, they do an amazing job at that. One of the best cultures I've actually ever seen is that company culture. It's a place where you can like share pictures of your kid on their first day of school. Like when you're there, you have culture.
Mm. Let's jump to content at scale. We'll jump to AI, jumping around a little bit. But first, let me ask you, because like you build this business, you build it large, you got all these clients, you sell it for multimillionaires, you do this all in like the course of 10 years after leaving this coal. I'm wondering, and then you dive right into like content hacker, content at scale. Do you ever like take a break and procrastinate or no?
It's funny. I had people, my exit in 2021, I had people say, okay, you had the big exit. Are you going to take a break? And I'm like, yes. So this is the year I am going to take a break. And let me tell you, Ben, I didn't. Didn't. I can't shut this off. There's something about chasing your dreams that gets very addictive once you get started on that path. But like, those are the people that are going to change the world. So why stop? That's how I see it now.
This is kind of a weird question because you gotta step out of yourself a little bit. Because if someone isn't you and they feel like they are kind of a procrastinator or they're okay with the sameness, but they're actually kind of not. Like they know that they could do more. Again, it's weird because you just seem like you're wired. Maybe you're wired this way, maybe you're not. Well, what's your advice for someone who is procrastinating on their business, their content, their career? What would you say to them?
Yes. I think is it Myron Golden has great advice on this where
I'm not good at trivia. Myron Golden.
me neither. You're good. He's there's a lot of advice I think in this direction that comes from the coaching industry, and it's really, really good. And basically what it comes down to is how you have to see life, and I will tell you one benefit for sure, of escaping a cult was that I know like life can be a certain way. And that's terrifying. And it makes me so grateful for every minute of freedom I have today. And I know not everyone has that perspective, where they were overlorded, every minute controlled for 21 years. Like, I'll tell you, you are thankful to get up and see daylight
Mm-hmm.
and be able to walk in the sunshine, because there were days you couldn't. You were in a prison. So when you have that perspective, it definitely I think gives you this perspective, which is hard to get to because life does get noisy. It does get cluttered. It's so easy to lose sight of a vision. But really what I've heard it said is, one day becomes none day. So if you don't chase your dreams today, and let me tell you, you will not feel ready. You will feel, I am the biggest imposter in the world. Let me tell you, I still feel like that. Okay. And I have hit some pretty big dreams. I did my first keynote this July. Julia, what are you doing? You don't have the skills for this. You're crazy. Say no, put it off. Like all that was in my head. And I've written 8 books. So it never goes away. It's just a part of life we have to live with. And then just realizing one day becomes none day. We got to do it now. It's now or never. You will 100% find that you're capable. You just got to step up and say yes, even when you're scared. So that is, I would say, the biggest tip I could offer is, don't doubt yourself. We doubt ourselves just way too much. I still do. Hopefully that encourages you.
It is encouraging. Take the step, bet on yourself, walk through the open door.
Yes.
I think that's really good advice. What's someday is none day?
Exactly. Some one day, none day.
That's really powerful. And it's never been easier to be a content creator for so many reasons. Like if someone wants to be a content creator, they want to create their personal brand, they want to get their message out there. We all have these cell phones now.
Yes.
We all have Google. We all have, if you're listening to this podcast, you are privileged in that regard. Some people don't have access to the same technology that you and I do. So even if you're just listening to this podcast, the technology's out there in abundance more than ever. So any of us can become a content creator. So kind of an overarching question is, how do I ensure my content's good? But let's start, we'll work that way. Let's start with just some of the tools. Like someone who's immersed in content, is a writer who's in a way putting herself out of business with her new company. Talk about the tools and what you've been doing with AI as of late.
Yes. Great question. Well, so for me, writing was, 99% of what we delivered as a service. It's what I did to build my career. So when AI came on the scene, really it was 2021, GPT became something like, whoa, okay, we got to talk about this. And then 2022, of course, ChatGPT comes out, gets 100 million users in a week. So in that time period, I was very skeptical of AI because here I'd been writing for 10 years, knew this craft in and out, knew what it takes to create content that actually gets action, gets people to buy, act. So there's a lot of art and science behind this, a lot of technique. And so I'm just like, AI is a regurgitator of information. There's no way. There's just no way it can stack up. And I will tell you today, you and I, Ben, are talking August 2023. We're at a place where AI is 80% of marketers are saying it's better than the human. So when we're there, it's time to adapt. It's time to put it in our workflow. So this January, I was researching AI specifically for me. It's long form content, website content. That's what we do to build traffic, income sources. So I'm like, which AI is going to touch that? And there were a few I tried, from ChatGPT to Surfer to Jasper to Phrase, you name it. And it wasn't there. It wasn't actually saving me time. And that's a big one. When you run a actual business, you have to save time. Otherwise, that flashy tool isn't really useful. So I'm like, these things aren't saving me time. And it was only when I found Content at Scale, which is the AI writer I now work at, that I was like, okay, Content at Scale was actually built to replace over 7 hours of work in the process of creating one blog. And that's what it does. It saves that many hours. So when I found it, I was like, okay, this is the one that's going to change everything. And so it's the main AI writing tool that I use now. And it has augmented my writers' work, because that's what I'm doing. We're not replacing writers. We are 10xing their output. So it's doing that. It's incredible to see this happen.
Well, tell for the listeners. So I use we talked about it. I use ChatGPT in the bio. She,
Love it.
I think it's she's a she, so she is kick ass and working for me. But to my understanding, you guys are different than a ChatGPT. What is the difference?
Yes, yes. So content at scale is definitely SEO. So if you're creating content to get found in Google, which is a whole nother art and science, you have a website, you're building up content to get found for a specific keyword. Like Ben, it might be business connections podcast. And so you're optimizing a blog or a page to get found for that
I'm doing that
keyword.
already.
Nice.
Let's go.
So content at scale does that. It writes that content that will get found for that keyword. It does everything else around it. The meta title, description, the hyperlinked contents within that piece of content, all the things that a writer would have to spend hours putting together, researching. It does that in 5 minutes. So it's very specific to SEO versus, I would definitely still use ChatGPT for your outlines, podcast episodes. I use ChatGPT for emails, headlines, newsletter titles. So it's great for short form RAI specifically. You want to rank in Google? This is the AI writer you use.
Got it. So if I already know SEO and I'm going to be hands on, I can use ChatGPT, any of these AIs to help me. But especially if I don't know this stuff, it sounds like I can just kind of plug and play.
100%. Yes, it was built to, even the SEOs. Like I would say that's probably our target. Our market right now is people that are advanced SEO, and then we have the newcomer to SEO learning about this, and then they're like, "Oh wait, I don't have to go headhunt, train, hire, find a writer anymore. I can just have one writer use this tool, or I can use it myself." So it's changing the game for both. It was SEOs are using it because it's so much easier to have AI produce your content. And the differentiation point really is it's a multi LLM stack. So it's multiple large language models that create unique content every time. And ChatGPT, like you're getting duplicate content, which isn't a problem, if you're using it inside other sources like an email. But it is a problem if you're trying to rank in Google because you need to have always has to be unique content.
Unique content, unique voice, SEO optimize. Rock and roll.
Yes.
So we're not done yet, but I'm going to transition slightly. So how do I learn more? Is it just content at scale.com?
Content at scale.ai.
Content at scale.ai. That's in the show
Got
notes
it.
for a quick click. And give us one additional AI tool that you're just like, this is kick butt. This is helping me create content. I'm so happy this exists right now. What else comes to mind? You can give me more
Oh
than
my.
one, but at least one.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'll tell you, I'm a minimalist with tools. Like I don't use too many. I still love the human process, but that said, AI is here and it's, saving me hours and hours and hours of times. I love my AI tools, but it really does come down to a few for me: content skills, the long form writer, ChatGPT, short form. And then the other one that I'm using is Loop Genius. And what this AI tool does in particular is it'll create a landing page, like a fully coded landing page with everything you need in seconds from like a series of prompts that you feed it. And the prompts are engineered to work kind of like you're interfacing with a person. So it's asking you, Ben, what do you want for your tagline? What do you want to see on your secondary, this part of the website? And you just literally describe it and it codes the whole thing. So it's pretty radical that even exists. I'm like, what? And like, we're talking 2 minutes, right? This thing is generated a whole landing page.
Julia, I think I'm going to have to edit that part out because I got a marketing company and that's going to put me out of business. But no, I'm just kidding. Whatever makes the world easier for me, my clients, and my peers is kick butt. So I had never heard of that. That's probably the rabbit hole I'm about to go down. And we always do a rapid fire round at the end. I know you've got to run off to your family, which is super important. So I got to get you out the door in time, but we're going to go rapid. These are going to be shorter answers. You can expand. The points don't matter. We're just going to do it quick and see where it takes us.
Let's do it.
So since we're on AI, let's just start with Any like major predictions, future of AI?
Yes. OpenAI has a study out, the labor, how the LLMs will affect the labor market. And I was actually deep in this rabbit hole last night, and it's crazy. It says it'll touch 100% of writing jobs and knowledge work. So that means if you're using an online skill, now is the time to learn how to use AI in that process. You will get infinitely faster, better, more efficient, and a higher producer, because that's going to be our new norm, I think, in a matter of months, not years, because of the rate of adaption. So pretty scary. Like, I'll tell you, my hair stands up. What? This is a bigger change than when the internet happened, but we're there.
Well, one thing that makes my hair stand up is Instagram, AI, influencers, millions of followers, making more money than I do, and it's an AI. Hot take. What's your opinion on that?
I think quickly built, quickly fallen. I think that, in the end, humans really want humans. So if you're using AI, make sure your human touch is still incorporated. Because in the end, like, we don't want to read a book from a robot. We don't we don't want to buy from a robot. We don't want to get coached by a robot. You name all the things. It's a person. It's person to person interactions. So the future is AI, but it's going to be run by humans.
So I don't recreate myself and try to become famous as an AI.
Beware. That's all I'll say.
So we touched on a couple, you left the cult, you exited your company. Any other proudest moments of your career or life?
Yes. Oh my goodness. Well, blessed, right? There's so many to count. Like, all my books have hit #1 new release, but maybe we'll share this. Right before we started this episode, I was telling you it was literally 1 hour, 1 hour ago this happened. My business, Content Hacker, just got acquired by the company I work for, Constant Scale. So we're going to be partners in AI, which is incredible, because, in this company, I've had the opportunity to help so many people, just countless people. And above anything, something I love the most is helping people find their own opportunity. And we're doing that through Constant Scale, giving people the technology to do that and the training. So that's something that really excites me, that I can actually be in the mix, not just as an employee, because I am an entrepreneur at heart. So to be in that as a partner, which happened an hour ago, is just incredible.
We were joking about this. Like, sometimes I feel bad. It's like a 6 to 8 weeks. People are probably going to be listening to this in like September, October, but I got to hear it here first. So I feel special. And by then this is going to be for real, for real. Like,
Yeah.
What in this whole acquisition kind of merger, what's exciting you the most?
Yeah. Well, what I see is a path forward where the things that I built years ago, not even knowing the future, right? Like, I trademarked Content Hacker, bought that domain, cost a heck ton of money. But I'm like, this sounds innovative. It sounds like me. That's all I knew. It didn't make sense otherwise. But like, this is again the proof, right? That you just got to follow your gut. It might not make sense. It might not make sense to anyone but you got to do it. You got to take a chance, because look where it could lead you. So I took that chance, got something that felt really innovative, felt true to me. And what's going to happen under this acquisition is that brand, Content Hacker, is going to become a place for people. And it's going to go so much further, probably 100 times further than what I could have taken it on my own as me, as the Content Hacker. Now it's going to be flipped and turned into a community where people can identify as content hackers. So that's our plan for it. And that's huge. I'm really, really blessed to merge and do this acquisition with someone like the founder of Content Scale, Justin McGill, who has the same vision I do. I feel like that's very rare in business. So I'm really excited. The future is bright.
I'm excited for you. Me, the listener, we want to continue to support. How do we keep in touch and like watch this grow? Where's the best place to go?
Yes, the best place, I would say, go to constantscale.ai/blog. You'll have the opportunity to sign up to a weekly newsletter that I write. It goes out every Friday, called the Weekly Casual. And, some Fridays it looks like a rant because there's so many people I see that have opportunity, but they will not adapt because of fear. Fear is holding them back. They're like, well, Julia, I love to write. I cannot use an AI in my process. You're telling me to do something I hate. And I'm like, no, I'm telling you to adapt or die. It's that serious. You have to leave your fear behind. So sometimes it's a rant, and then sometimes it's, here's what's amazing that's happening. So definitely sign up for that newsletter. It's good stuff.
I'm already signed up, and the listener is going to do it right now. It's in the notes so we can help them. And
Love it.
thanks again for coming on. Family comes first. I said I'd have you out the door in time, so I'm going to let you go, and we'll circle back around and do this again sometime.
Please, let's do it, Ben. I love our chat. And yeah, we got to do a part 2 for your people. Let's do it.
Thanks, Julia.